Hello and welcome to volume 24 of Ask a Brit. That's right, if Jack Bauer and BBC News had a baby, this is what it would look like. But this is the show, of course, in which I have you ask me any question you like in the comments below, leaving the hashtag AskABrit. That way I can find your question in the comments. And I've got to tell you folks, the questions are coming thick and fast now. So if yours didn't make the final cut, please do ask it again because I would love to include it. We've had fabulous questions this week. Some terrible ones as well, but mostly they were from my mum, so don't worry about that. But I want to kick things off today with possibly the most adorable question we've had yet. This is fantastic. This comes from Bonnie Tracy on Facebook, and Bonnie asks, would you by chance know of any gentlemen in their 70s who'd like to marry a 72-year-old, slightly Rubenesque, intelligent woman from Chicago? Bonnie, I have to say, unfortunately, I don't. I think if I come into any money, I might start that dating site up. But as we speak, the only gentleman, British gentleman, I should say, that's in their 70s that I know is my dad. And he's currently married to my mum, so that wouldn't work. But beyond that, I could ask around. You know, I'll see what my dad said. Maybe he's got friends, you know, in high places that he can put you in contact with. I will get on that. Next question comes from Mike G. And Mike says, have you adopted an American college football team yet? I haven't. It's really bad, isn't it? I suppose the closest I've come is to Michigan, I think. Michigan State? I don't remember the name of the team, sorry. Who play in Ann Arbor, because I went there to watch Manchester United versus Real Madrid. Different football altogether. Broke the record for an outdoor attendance for a soccer match in the United States. And I feel like I was a part of that. A very small part of that. It was a needle in a haystack part of it. But I was there. So I suppose, just by virtue of that fact, I'll root for Michigan. They must be a college team. It is a college town. Sorry, I don't know much about football, your football. I should do better on that score and look into it a little more at some time. Send me some recommendations for teams. I mean, I understand fully that these will be completely biased recommendations, but I'll take them anyway and we'll go from there. How's that? Okay, next question comes from Vicky Clark, and Vicky asks, have you been to any of the amusement parks in the US and Britain? Which do you find to have the best rides? Do you ride roller coasters? Oh, that's a fun question. 3 questions. So yes, I have been to theme parks in the US. The one that sticks out to me is Kings Island in Cincinnati, or the Cincinnati area. I developed in my youth a major fear of heights that made me start talking like a radio DJ for no reason at all. I'll stop doing that now. But it instilled in me this sense of don't go above the second floor of any building and don't go on a roller coaster. So, you know, a few years ago, I shot myself in the foot. Not literally, you know, I haven't been there yet. Don't own a gun. We've covered that in a previous episode. But I did go on numerous roller coasters at Mr. King's Island. I don't know why King's Island is suddenly of the male gender. It is, I've decided, for no reason, actually. You know, I was horrified the whole time coming down. I don't know which roller coaster it was. It was one with many loops, right? And I was coming down, and I swear that the seatbelt thing, you know, the thing that they lock in place, it came off, I think. I'm probably being paranoid, but as we got off the roller coaster, we told this, or rather my wife told this to one of the attendants. They came to me and questioned me about it, and then I felt pretty bad because I think, like I said, paranoia drove me to that place rather than reality. However, I did grow up without that fear. You know, when I was a kid, I had no fear. I would jump on all of these rides. One of my favourite places was, of course, Alton Towers. Lightwater Valley was an old favourite because it had that big, gosh, the ultimate ride. Really unoriginal name, but it was, as a kid, brilliant. And I think it was one of the longest roller coasters in the world at the time or something like that. I mean, a lot of roller coasters make claim to things like that. But I bloody loved it. I'd go on it multiple times as a kid, and Alton Towers as well. Loved the cable cars, you know, hanging over the gardens. For anybody that's not been to Alton Towers or isn't aware of it, it's sort of I think it started out as a garden, like a huge garden, and then they just thought, let's stick roller coasters in here, you know, and increase people's chances of death. So you're unlikely to die on a roller coaster. I do need to bear that in mind. You're more likely to die in a plane crash, which again, actually, I don't want to think about when I'm flying. But of course, with planes, you're more likely to die in a car crash. So it gets better and better and better the higher up you are. Okay, next question comes from Patricia Norton. Patricia asks, why, and Patricia's been watching a few of those sort of stately home TV shows, why is the loo or washroom called the cloakroom? I've never seen a cloak, coat, jacket, or even a wrap. I see a toilet and sometimes a sink. Oops, lav. But no cloaks. Now, Patricia, I had to do some research into this question because when I was growing up and going to school, the cloakroom was the place where we as kids hung our coats and our bags, right? I mean, it was pretty literal in that sense. But you're right, there is a usage of cloakroom that does mean lavatory. And it's a bizarre one. It looks like it comes from French. The spelling C-L-O-Q-U-E from memory. Which again, though, only means cloak, I think. So it's still a bit of a mystery to me, that one. Perhaps people went into the bathroom for a number one and they were cold, you know, and they needed to wrap up warm. I'm making excuses for some strange terminology. So if anybody has an answer to that question, please leave it in the comments below, you history buffs. And next question comes from Classy Spider. That's definitely YouTube name of the week. And Classy Spider asks, I was wondering what your favorite American superhero is and are comic books / superhero media as popular in Britain? Thanks. I have to say, Classy Spider, I don't really have a favorite American comic book hero. In fact, you'll never really find me hanging around with comic book heroes, or even looking at comics, or getting involved in any of that superhero nonsense. Not me, oh, do. But the truth is, they are popular in the UK. Sure, absolutely. I mean, I think every town that you can picture in the UK does have one of those sort of comic book stores that you find every town here. But yeah, no, they are very popular over there. And I think that the films that are out right now, you know, gross well at the box office in the UK just as they do here. But just to really reiterate and to plug a future episode of Lost in the Pond, I don't know any superheroes, so we'll leave it at that before I give too much more away. Next question, Brooke Jonas. Brooke asks, having some Welsh heritage, I want to know, what do you think about the Welsh language? This is brilliant. I've been to Wales many a time. I went to that railway station in Wales that has one of the longest names in the world. It's this. I'm not going to try and pronounce it now, although I believe there was a weather person that pronounced it correctly and casually on live television a few years ago. That kind of sums up the Welsh language in one word. It's just multiple L's and W's and things like that. It's quite a mouthful that when I'm eating a sandwich, I don't have room for. So I don't know why I brought sandwiches into that, but the Welsh would spell sandwich as S-A-N-D-W-W-W-W-I-C-H-E-S. So next question comes from Tara, which is my wife's name, only she has an H. Farrar, I hope that's the pronunciation, who asks, I know you've mentioned visiting the Pacific Northwest and Pennsylvania, but what about some other states? What about, for instance, the Smoky Mountains in Tennessee? Tara, you may be new to the channel, I don't know. I am looking to get to all 50 states, and honestly, as many places within those 50 states as is humanly possible. I actually touched upon the Smoky Mountain National Park in a previous video. I did a video, which I'll link to at the end of this one, about, you know, national parks that I really, really want to visit. Smoky Mountain was part of that. I have been to Nashville before, and I would love to see more of what the state has to offer. Check out my Finding America playlist to see some of the states I have visited so far. Okay, next question comes from Susan Hubbard. Susan asks, have you thought about where you want to visit when you get a chance to visit Alabama? Wow, we're really focusing on the southern states in this episode. I have actually, Susan. I was talking to Tara about this just the other day, that I do want to see Mobile, actually, and I also want to see Birmingham, Alabama, because it's modeled somewhat on the Birmingham in the UK. It's named after it. And just as Birmingham, UK is quite an industrialized city, and it was during the 19th century, so is Birmingham, Alabama, or at least that was the intention behind it at the time. And part of it was modeled on what we know in the UK. I think it would be fascinating to check out many, many parts of Alabama, and I keep taking recommendations over all states. Okay, next question comes from Susie Q, and Susie asks, Lawrence, do your cats like catnip? My cats are 13 years old and I use it to light a fire under them for exercise. Makes perfect sense. My cats at this point now are 7 years old, so they get into that age where they might need such a fire lit. Actually, a fire is possibly the worst thing to light around these cats. They're likely to jump in. But catnip, yeah, absolutely. I give my cats drugs quite frequently. I found, actually, it's a great way to bring them under a relaxed status when we're traveling with them, which is rare. I don't take them on the Finding America series. That would be mental. But when we're moving house, for example, we move from Indianapolis to Chicago. It's kind of a 3-hour drive. They were with us and we put them into, you know, little boxes. It's regrettable that you kind of have to do that. Otherwise, they're jumping around and they're causing chaos and they're making you crash on I-65, which is already a likelihood, no matter if you have cats. And so we did that, and it does relax them. And honestly, during that journey, they were the most well-behaved of the four of us, right? Because we were in terrible moods because it thundered and we got a flat tire. And all of that. The cats, they were almost oblivious. They didn't care about the flat tire, which is unusual. Is it? No, it's not. They had no clue. But yeah, catnip, it's a good little weapon if you want your cats to shut up. All right, with this question, we're going to combine language and numbers, something I don't like to do too often because it makes my head explode. But Pips K asks, why do British people say maths instead of math? So I think we look at it as mathematics, you know, the full word, ends in an S, so it kind of makes sense. But when you're talking about the academic field of mathematics, I suppose you are looking at a singular field, although there are different sort of offshoots of that field. So in a way, it's plural or it's singular. So it's one of those tough ones that falls in the middle. So I can quite readily accept math as an option, but maths is what we go with. So you do the maths, you know, on that. And the final question today, this comes from two people actually asked a very similar question. Anna Addison and Sephora Navarro ask regarding Halloween, which of course is upon us. And in fact, I'm going out on a Halloween party tonight, he says, recording this last night. As you know it, it's Saturday for me, it's Sunday for you. It's all confusing, but then I'm used to that because of time differences. Anna and Sephora ask, how are the Halloween holidays spent differently between our two great homelands? And do you enjoy how Halloween is celebrated here? So firstly, I think the thing that stands out for me is the way we dress up. Right, and this may have changed in the UK, and I have UK followers that may be able to correct me on this, but when I was growing up, your Halloween costumes of choice, they were of the monstrous ilk, right? So they had to be a mummy, a vampire, your brother, you know, and that was it. You know, you would come as something that was traditionally very scary, very horrific, something that's part of the horror genre folklore. Whereas in the US, it kind of feels like you can go dressing up as, well, anything in many ways. I think in some capacity that frees you up. There's less pressure on you because you've got more of a choice. You could go dressed as a piece of rope if you wanted to. I don't know how you would do that or how, but you could try it. Whereas in the UK, like I said, you are reduced to just being monsters. Some of us don't even have to dress up to do that. And that's it for this episode of Ask a Brit. Keep your questions coming. Again, I will get as many of them into next week's episode as I can as we reach number 25. It's our 25-year anniversary. It's not 25 years. That would be crazy. 25 volumes. But again, keep them coming and I'll see what I can do. In the meantime, don't forget to follow us on Facebook, Twitter and Instagram. I've seen a lot of you been doing that and that's great. So we're starting to get a following there. Can't keep up with you all. There's too many of you. There's not. I need more, actually. And go to my website, lostinthepond.com. Until then, have a great week. Cheerio. Bye. Bye. That was high-pitched. I've told you to stop me from